or to the cloud.
Yay. Are we good?
We are.
Okay.
I was just gonna do a quick little introduction.
Go for it.
For you. Okay. So welcome everybody to the 3:30 R9 Tech Bits session. And today's presenter is Amanda O'Doherty. She's the mentorship coordinator, dossier coach, and reviewer. Amanda is a level 3 mentor teacher with 18 years of experience in secondary and early childhood education. She comes to us with a bachelor's degree in secondary education and a master's degree in educational administration. Currently, she's coordinating a statewide mentorship program for new teachers in New Mexico. We are so proud and excited about this new adventure for her. And I'm just really glad that she was able to come and present to us all today. All right, Amanda, it's all yours.
Thank you, April. April is also like my think tank with the state stuff. So, and by the way, we just got the state one today, just so you know. Yes, party time. I just found out in my previous meeting. So yay, that's a good thing. We want to say thank you for joining us today. We kind of went back and forth on what to do on this one. And this morning session, you know, things don't always go as planned in education. So it went a little bit different. And so I'm going to explain kind of why we're going this route. And then if you guys are like, we know Google Classroom, let's do something deeper, then we definitely can do that. But our purpose on revisiting Google Classroom is April and I have been helping several teachers. We've seen either a lot of new teachers come into play that are alternatively licensed and don't really have a lot of experience in classroom management or classroom systems. And so they weren't familiar with Google Classroom. And so we've been helping them one-on-one, or we're seeing the opposite end of the spectrum of teachers who came back this year that had been retired. And because schools were needing teachers so poorly, they begged some of their older teachers to come back, which is wonderful, but they're also not familiar with Google Classroom. So we've been spending quite a bit of time helping them one-on-one, and we were like, you know what, let's revisit just the Google Classroom basics and see if we can help them. So that's kind of going to be our focus today. We're going to talk about what Google Classroom is, how to get it all set up, how to navigate the classroom and the different things that you can do in there. And then if we get that far, we'll play with some extra tools and show you some extra cool features. Like she said, I am Amanda O'Doherty, and now I'm no longer with the dossier program. I started off, you're fine. I don't think we've changed my bio. But I started off with half-time dossier program coach and reviewer, and then half-time mentorship coordinator just for our Region 9 schools. And that has spread like wildfire. And so now we're providing mentorship statewide across the board to any new teacher, whether they're alternatively licensed or regularly, traditionally pathway. And so that's what I do mainly or fully now. And so it's been a great change and pretty exciting because it's all pretty new. So I'm going to show you a quick video. This is just kind of a quick tutorial on what exactly Google Classroom is and what it can do for you. And then we'll kind of walk through some of the features. they've edited that since the last time. They've added a few of the new features. So I love Google Classroom. Even before COVID, I was 17 years in the classroom, and my last 3 to 5 years, I was fully paperless, with the exception of an interactive notebook, and I taught English. And the way that I accomplished that was through Google Classroom and some of the extensions that you can add with your Google Classroom. So it is possible, even for a high school English teacher, and I don't know why that's playing again. But it's just so important that we find a way to streamline our process. And whether we are teaching fully in class or we are teaching a hybrid where we've got some kids zooming in and we have to keep them up alongside our regular students that are actually face-to-face, or we've got 2 of our districts now in our area that are shut down for the foreseeable future. So having the access to something like Google Classroom really does help kind of streamline that. So to get started, the first thing that you absolutely have to have is a Gmail account. And some schools are Google schools, and they utilize Google Suites for Education. And that's an easy go of it. If you are a Google school and you have that Gmail account for your school email, then you're set up to go already. If for some reason you don't, you can set a Google Classroom up on your personal Gmail account. And that is doable if your school allows you. So always check and make sure that that's okay with your school district, that's allowable within their realm of technology agreements. So if you do not have a Gmail set up, then we have a step-by-step guide here. We're not going to take the time to go through that today, but I want you to know that the resource is here. So if you do need to set up a Gmail account, follow the links here. April's going to make sure that you have this available, so you won't have to worry about, where do I find this presentation? She'll make sure you have it, and it'll take you step by step on how to do that. It's pretty simple. So we're really here in just a moment going to just jump into Google Classroom and show you kind of some tips and tricks that I've learned across the way as we go through some of this stuff. But I'm going to show you how to find it, how to add a class. We're going to do the class codes. They've moved some of that around. So if you utilized Google Classroom last year and you get into it this year, you're like, where's everything that was like in this one spot? They've moved it. And so that's really the only change they've done, is just shifted where some of the things are located. You can do announcements, assignments, and then we're going to talk, very important, if you are not familiar with the types of permissions that you can give your students, we're going to show that to you, because that is going to be a key point when you get into your Google Classroom and making sure that students aren't copying off each other and doing that kind of thing. So we'll talk about those permissions. So we're just going to play and look around. So if I get stuck on something that you're like, we all know this, we don't need this help, let's do something better, then let me know. And that's definitely where we can go. So for me, the easiest thing is to start off with my Gmail. And I've got a lot of stuff opened. So if you log into your Gmail account and you get into your Gmail, then it's really easy to access from using your Rubik's Cube. And if you'll click on that apps tray, you've got all of your Google apps here, and you can click on Classroom that way. And so that's how I'm going to get to it today. And you can see I have way too many Google classes operating at one time right now. I'm sorry. But we got a lot going on, so that's not a bad thing. Few things on this page that you may or may not know. So if you're like me and you've got 50 million Google Classrooms going, you may decide you need to archive a class. I don't really have any right now that I can archive, but I'll show you where that's at. So if I come over here and I click the 3 dots, my elementary teachers call them snowmen, by the way. So if you ever hear that term, I did not know that's what they were talking about. You can move it, you can unenroll it, and that is not where the archive is. The archive has moved. April, where do I archive my class now? Let's see. Well, I was going to show you how to archive, but I'm not finding the button anymore.
It's there, Amanda. It's
Where
there.
is it?
It's just
I'm
moved.
blind. It's on this one. It wasn't on the other one.
It's on the see where it says archive?
Yes,
Yeah.
but did you see when I was here? I couldn't archive that one.
So it may have
See?
just been next gen facilitator. You may not have full access to that. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, well, it is where it was supposed to be. Sorry, I just
And-
happened to click on the random one that didn't work.
And
Yes,
just
ma'am.
so you know, Amanda, you do have one question from Suzanne, and maybe you can, I'm just gonna plug it in your brain, and then we can answer that as we move forward, possibly.
Okay,
But she's interested. Can you show me how to write or write on a PDF that I put into Google Classroom? And I think there's a couple of ways that we can successfully show her that, but I'll let you get through with what you're doing, and then we'll get to that.
absolutely, we will do that. And as April said, there's several things that we can do. So archive class is right here. And once you archive a class, it's really easy to unarchive the class. So I'm not going to archive this one because I just gave a teacher access to it this week. But if you come here and you've archived a class, but you need access to it again, say you teach classes by semester and you don't want extra classes up here, you don't want to accidentally click on the wrong one. So when you finish semester 1, your fall semester, you can click archive and it'll pop down here. You can click archive classes in this tray on the left-hand side. And you'll see all of the classes that are archived, and you see they've got the lines through all of them. That means they're archived classes. They're still there. They haven't gone away because you don't want to delete it because you may use it again next semester or in this fall of the next year. But you have total access. It takes a little bit. I'm not going to do one here, but you can restore this class. And in order to do that, you just click the restore button. It pops back up, but it does restore it with all the same students. You can always make copies of the class as well, and then it just copies the class content. So that way, if you do teach something by semester, you want to archive it, get it off, but you don't want to lose it, that's how you do that, okay? I'm going back here to my regular classes. I always recommend creating a practice class. So if you're not familiar with a lot of the stuff and you want to just learn how to play with different tools and apps and extensions that are coming out, having a practice class that maybe you attach to your personal email. So I join my practice class with my personal email. That way, when I practice, I don't notify. Now April's in it, and I think a couple other people too, but they get, every time I practice, they get an email. So if you don't want that to happen, create your practice class, and then with the personal Gmail account, join it as a student. And that way you see not only what happens on the teacher side, but you also see what happens on the student side when something gets assigned. And that way you can see if it really is working the way that you want it to work. So I'm also going to show you, here's your plus sign up here. And if you're not familiar with that, that's how you join a class or add a class. And so I can create a class right here and set it up. I'll get my code, I name it. I don't want to add another class, but it's pretty simple to follow and do. So I'm going to click on our practice class. And so if you're familiar with Google Classroom, you are used to the Meet link and everything being on this header here. That is the one thing that has changed so far. They have moved them over here to the left-hand side. Okay, so you used to have a Google Meet link, you had your class code joining and all that kind of stuff. And all of those tools and resources were over here under the banner. And so now, if you want to set up a Google Meet for your class, there's several different ways to do that. Students, if you give them access to see it, they can join right from here. Now, I am going to caution you. We have had a school district that had some students that realized that link was active even at 3 o'clock in the morning. And with no teacher present, they didn't have to have a teacher to start the Google Meet link because it was just active. And so they had students getting on at 3 in the morning doing inappropriate things with nobody on a school, with no teacher there, but on a school Google Meet link. And so most of our school districts have made it a mandate that it is not visible to students. And I'll show you where to do that. And so what happens is they can't click it until the teacher activates it. And there is a way to do that very simply. So here in a minute, when we go through settings, I'll show you where that feature is so that if you want, you can do it that way. We have the class code over here. So there's multiple ways you can invite a student to join a class. If you have them in front of you and you want them to join it, you just click this little expansion thing and it shows the Meet link. They can join right from there. They just go to Google Classroom, click a join a class and type that code in, they're good to go. There's another way to invite them via email if you don't happen to have them in front of you. So I can show you that in a moment as well. Upcoming, this little button right here is one of my favorite features because this is their stream of what they have due. Okay, these are the assignments that they have to do. And the cool thing about Google Classroom is it's a Google feature. So it syncs to your Google Calendar. It's going to sync to a Google Drive. Now, not your Google Calendar and not your Google Drive unless you tell it to. It creates a class Google Calendar and a class Google Drive. But if the students are linked to it with their Gmail account, they're still going to get notified. So when they have an upcoming assignment or they forgot to turn one in and it's late, they're going to get an email that says, hey, don't forget this is due, or hey, you're late 2 days, you need to turn this in. And this will also show up here on this feed so they can see it every time they're in your class. You have announcements, and this page ultimately operates very similar to Facebook. So whatever is the most recent post is what's going to be up there first. So if you do have something that you want to be at the top of your page, I wish they had an anchor feature where you could anchor one. That's not there yet, but it has been recommended in some of the recommendations I've noticed for Google. But say I want this, for some reason, I want this to be my welcome. And all I have to do is click the 3 dots, tell it to move it to the top, and it moves it to the top immediately. And you can see it's right here and it's posting. So if you have a welcome or something that you want at the top of your class every day, you'll just have to go in right now and move it to the top of your class. But it is pretty simple to do. And then that you can see this is just the stream. So everything that gets posted will be on the stream page. I'm going to walk you through the top up here, and then we'll get into how we add assignments and look at the grades and stuff. So you have your classwork tab. We'll come back to this in a moment, but this is where we add all of our assignments. You can also see that you've got your Meet up here. So if you want them to join a Google Meet, you can also access it from this page. This is where they can pop up their Google Calendar, and this is just the stuff for this class. So you're not going to see everybody's calendar. They're not all going to see your calendar. It's just for this classroom. And then the same thing for class drive. So it's just for this class. So you're not going to have all of your personal or not personal stuff, hopefully, but your teacher stuff won't be all in this classroom stuff unless you tell it to, and then it can be. People tab is where we can add students. You can also add co-teachers. So the last year that I taught in Rio Rancho, I had an inclusion teacher that was in my classroom pretty much all day long. And we co-taught by about 4 out of my 6 classes. And so I had him in all of my Google classes as a co-teacher. Really simple to do. You just come up here, click that plus sign and type in their email. And they will get an invite that automatically gives them access as a co-teacher. Just caution, again, be very careful who you give that access to, because they have full ability to edit anything in your classroom if they're a teacher. So if they're not someone that you're like, I don't know, then the answer is no, don't give them access. Make sure you're fully comfortable with them being in there. You can also add students in the same way. So say you don't have students in front of you, you've got a few that are working from home for whatever reason, and they've opted to do that. You can do one of 2 things here. You can type their email in if you know their email, or you can copy this link, dump it in an email to them, and it will email directly to them. And so then they have the classroom code and everything. They click that link, they're joining your class. Okay. So you would just do that, click invite, and just like on that teacher page, they're going to receive invites, but this time they're as a student. You also have some ability to control what students can do. So April, we're going to pick on you because you're here. I always pick on April. So if I click this button, it automatically allows me to do some actions with April here. So I can email just April through Google Classroom, pretty simple. I can remove her. So say she moves to a different state and I need to take her out of my Google Classroom, I can remove her, but it does remove everything. Or say April's been a little unruly and maybe she's not saying some nice things to other students and things, I can mute her. So, and I can mute just her. So if I click mute, then she can no longer post or comment. She can turn her work in, but that's all she can do. So that is an option. And I've had to do that before with some students because I used it very much like a discussion board in college. And so I'd post comments and they could post comments and discuss back and forth. And so I always had 1 or 2 and I was like, okay, guys, look, we don't do this. So this is your one warning. And if this happens again, I mute you. And then you have to prove to me and earn it back. And, you know, it works. And so you can do that too. The other options that you have, let's see, that's pretty much there. The 3 dots, you can do the same thing pretty much from the 3 dots. And then you can also invite guardians. And so you have to have their email to invite them. And in order to invite them, or in order for them to receive guardian summaries of what's going on, I'll show you those in just a minute, they do have to be invited into the classroom and accept the invite. Any questions so far on that stuff? No, we're good? Okay. The grades is one of my favorite features that they added. They didn't have this for a long time when I was using Google Classroom. It wasn't until the very end. And we had our own SIS, so we used PowerSchool, and I probably would not have used this for grading, but it does give a great overview of who's turned things in, who hasn't turned things in. It's just a real quick glance. There's other ways to do that too. That's what I love about Google Classroom. There's so many different ways to do different things, but it is really simple to see. And so if I've noticed April hasn't turned this in, I can click on that. If she did turn it in, I could send it back to her, say she needed to make some edits, or maybe she did great and I just wanted to make a comment that said, good job. Then I could open that, make the comment, and then return it to her, and she would get notified of my comments. And then I could just view her submission if I wanted to. I can also click on April and see everything that April has turned in or not turned in, or that has been assigned, but hasn't, you can see all of that. And so that's a really easy way to navigate if you need to navigate per student. Okay. There is an integration from this into some of the grading systems, but they are not cheap, and there's not just a easy sync, because I get that question a lot. No, it's not, sweetie. I've got a kid homesick today. Sorry, guys. But it's doable, and a lot of schools are utilizing Hapara, and Hapara does do that syncing, but it doesn't automatically sync to systems like PowerSchool. Okay. So that's your top parts here. We're going to come over here to your little cogs, your setting wheel, and click on that. So you can edit your class name, your section, all of that if you need to. This is your invite codes. So right now the invite code is turned on. You can turn it off. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but you can. Again, you have your Google link and your class view to display the code all there, just like before. This is a really important feature. So this is that stream on your first page that I said operates a lot like Facebook. So right now it's set to where only I, as a teacher, or any other teacher in my class, can post and comment. So that means students cannot interact with it in any way, form, or fashion. They can just see what we post. But if you click on that, you have 2 other options. So you can have to where the students can post or comment, or my probably most typical is where I can post and comment, or I post and then they can comment. And that's still a good way to do a discussion board if you would like to do something of that nature. And that is this feature right here. Students can only comment. So I would have to open the thread as the teacher, but then they can continue the comments as far as they need to as students under that thread. Okay. You can see the full notification or condensed ones. I love this deleted item feature. Let me explain to you why I leave this open. It does sometimes get to be a lot. However, if you have some naughty students in your class and they post or they bully students in Google Classroom or whatever it might be, and they know that you're not going to be on, but other students probably will be, and they post something just long enough for it to get a reaction and then delete it. Then if a student says, hey, this happened and you have no evidence, well, you do if this is left open. Because what's going to happen is anytime a student deletes it, yes, it deletes it from the student feed, but on the teacher side, you can still see it, and you see it with the name and a date and a timestamp. And what it'll do is I'll show you here in a minute what it'll look like, but it kind of grays it out. It's not in black type anymore. It's in gray type. And so you can tell that way that it was deleted by a student. So it was intentionally done. So if you leave that on, it does get kind of cumbersome in your feed as a teacher. If it happens a lot, hopefully it doesn't. But if it did, you've got that backup to discipline appropriately. Guardian summaries, this is where you turn those on. This is where the guardians get notifications of pretty much whatever you give them permission to see or whatever they select on their end to see. So as a parent in my son's Google Classroom, I can set it up to where I want to know every time he's missed an assignment, or if I just want to be notified once a week on what he's been doing. I have those options as I set it up as a guardian. And the cool thing about that is teachers don't have to do anything. So that's automatic parent communication that's sent every week based on what you're doing in your classroom, and you don't have to take the time to send the email every week. It's just automatically going to go. So that's very helpful. Now, it never gets rid of that personal communication that you still need to do. Just going to throw that caveat in there. But it does help keep parents abreast of what's going on with their kiddos. Here's your Meet link. This is another one. This is where you do that visible to students. It's literally a one click. So say I don't want it visible to students all the time because I don't want them to join at any time they want to, but I am going to have a Google Meet link here or a Google Meet in 5 minutes. So I'm going to come over here, really click, toggle that back open, let them click from that home page so that I don't have to send them the information to do that. Then when we're done with the meeting, I come back to my settings cog and click it off. Pretty simple to do. You have full control, and that way they can't join without you. Okay. And then here's your grading calculation. So you can set that up if you want to. And if you're going to solely use this, you can use this as your grading system, and you can set it up total points weighted by category, however you want to do that, whatever makes more sense for your classroom. And that is pretty much everything as far as your settings. So I'm going to X out of that, discard my changes, and we're going to go to classwork because this is where most of the magic happens. So several things here that I'm just going to kind of show you. If you see how this one is grayed out where it says jam, it's because it's in draft mode. And I'm going to show you how to do something as a draft. So say you start working, you get interrupted, or you don't have enough time, it took longer than you thought. You can save all of the work that you did without having to post it to your students. So I'll show you that. Everything else has been posted. And this gray draft is what it's going to look like if you have one of those deleted items that we just talked about. Okay. Over here we have topics, and you can see, and they're really easy to move. Well, I say they're easy to move around. It's not wanting to cooperate right now, but you can set your topics up, and different teachers do it different ways. Sometimes they set it up by week and they do their assignments per week. Elementary teachers will set up, an English language arts, a science, a social studies. A lot of high school teachers, I worked with one this week, we're setting them up by chapters. So chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then everything that you assign, you can attach to a topic. And that way it makes it very simple for your students to find. So we'll show you that in just a second. The other thing, again, you have your 3 dots and edit, delete, or copy link. So say you forgot to attach it to multiple classes and you want to make sure that you get it into another class. That's what that copy link would be for. I'm going to show you how to do all that in a second. You can completely delete an assignment after you posted it, or say you've posted it, but you forgot to attach a document that they're going to need. You click that edit button, or I do this all the time. I forget to put it in a topic. I forget to click that topic button. So all I have to do is click edit. It pops my screen back up. I can come over here, assign it to chapter 1, click save, and it will now move itself into chapter 1 topic. So if I click on chapter 1, now the assignment is there. So pretty simple. So let's go back into classwork and we're going to create. You have some options, and the document overwrite that we were talking about for a PDF, my go-to, and we can play with it later, is Cami. So for the individual who had the question on how to write with a PDF, Cami is my go-to. It's the one I like, but there's several other features out there too that you can use. Okay. You can add a quiz, and that will create a Google form. I love Google form quizzes because it's graded for you, and then you get all of your stuff on a spreadsheet. Pretty simple, integrate seamlessly with Google Classroom. Love it. I use it for exit. I've used it for exit tickets. I've used it for surveys. So it doesn't just have to be a quiz. You can do it a lot of different things. You can create just a question if you want, that you just want them to maybe respond to the reading that they've done, and all they need to do is answer a question. You can do that. Say you have resources. The gentleman I was working with this week wanted to upload some reading out of their chapter. So I showed him how to get a picture of his reading onto a Google slide. And we uploaded that as a material because it's not an assignment, it's a resource. So we added that as a material and assigned it to the appropriate chapter. And then he created assignments based off that material. Okay. So that works really well. And then you can reuse stuff, and then you can kind of mess with your topics and find topics. Okay.
Hey, Amanda.
So yes.
So Suzanne has, Zamora has done Cami. She's tried Cami and Google Hub or whatever, Hub Docs or whatever. And I guess it's not on their Chromebook. So she's having a hard time that way. And I was telling her, we may, when you have a chance, maybe pull up a PDF and show how to do a forced copy for her students, because that's a really handy trick.
But that's not, well, if the PDF is in your Google Classroom, then you can do a forced, or in your Google Drive.
Okay.
Then you can do a forced copy.
Okay. I don't know if that would work for her. She said, I don't have a send a copy or open in option. So yeah, maybe I'm not on the right track with her, but anyways.
We'll play with it here in just a second and see what we can come up with.
Okay, thank you.
So let's create an assignment and we'll see if we can't recreate that scenario really quickly. So we're just going to say tech bits practice. Okay, now you have your instructions, so you can always add whatever instructions. So like I mentioned, I'm going to use Mr. Jackson, the individual I've been working with. So he's working off a PDF, right? And so this might be a workaround for you. And if it was Suzanne, I think, that was asking. What we did is we uploaded from his drive a PDF, and I don't know if I have a good PDF or not that would work. We're just going to do a calendar because it's PDF. Okay. So I have it, it's in my Google Drive. So because it came from my Google Drive, I have options here. Now, if I had just uploaded a file, I would not have these options over here. So Suzanne, that may be where you're not getting the options to make a copy. Okay. If you have a video, go ahead if you want to ask.
Oh, so I'm doing it from the Google Drive, and then I click on that little arrow there, the last one that says the last one for them to have a copy. I don't know. I do that for all of them that I turn in, just so they don't end up editing the Google Drive or whatever, or the document. But then this one is coming up like with it all discombobulated when I'm trying to open it. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Did you tell it to open in a Google Doc?
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
So no, April's saying no. Oh, I'm right.
No,
you're
on the right track. You're on the right track.
Okay, sorry.
So
I'll just keep listening.
No, you're totally fine. No, your formatting is off because you converted the PD from a PDF to a Google Doc, and they don't sync together all the time. So that's why the formatting actually isn't for this make a copy. The formatting is because before you pulled it into Google Classroom, you pulled it into a Google Doc and opened it with a Google Doc. Is that correct?
No, I put it in my drive first as a PDF, and I opened it like you showed there from the drive. And then
and you uploaded it as a PDF format or as a doc?
As a PDF.
Okay.
It shouldn't have. Okay, well, we'll see if we can.
We may have to share your screen. So maybe let's get through this, Amanda, and then let's see if we have time for that.
Okay, so like she said, the make a copy for each student is really important, because if you students can only view the file, that means they can't interact with it. So this is great if you just want them to read it or just watch a video, because you have the option to upload YouTube videos and things as well. But if you click, they can edit the file, which is what most that are new to Google Classroom think they need to do. And they do, but this means they're editing one document. All of them have access to the same document and can edit the same document, and that document is your original. And so you don't want that. Unless that's the purpose of the assignment, you don't want that. And so the best scenario is make a copy for each student. That means every individual student is going to get their own copy that they can't see, and it doesn't affect your original draft. The other thing that you have to be really careful is if you forget to do this, and I am guilty of that, you cannot go back after you've posted the assignment and edit that because it creates a file path. And so you will actually have to delete that whole assignment and redo it if you want them to have their own copy and you have forgotten to do that. Okay, so it's probably the most important feature there. So we're gonna make a copy for each student, and because they can't edit this document because I'm uploading it as a PDF, the workaround you have for that is to click this plus button, and I'm gonna click for this one just a Google Doc. And it's gonna open a blank Google Doc that is specifically attached to this assignment, okay? I'm gonna title it Tech Bits Practice Answer Sheets. I think I spelled that correctly. And then all I have to do is X out of it. I don't have to do anything else. So in my instructions, I'm going to say, please read an answer on attached document. So now they have the reading that they need to do. And now they have a Google Sheet or a Google document, and I'm going to do make a copy for each student. Right here it says Untitled, but when my page refreshes and uploads the assignment, it's going to title it for them. Okay. And so now they've got the reading material, and the reading material has the questions at the bottom. And now they can just upload, click in this Google Doc and put their answers in this Google Doc. It's automatically attached to the assignment. So we don't have any confusion of them having to go in and attach their own document. It's already here for them, okay? So we can do one of two things here. We can just assign to one class, or we can assign to multiple classes this way. So I could assign it to as many or as few as I wanted. But I also want to show you this feature. So if you assign to multiple classes, so if I pick this class and come over here, then I can't assign to specific students. So if you want to assign it to specific students, maybe you've got some students that need some enrichment. Maybe you've got a couple of gifted students. She's gifted, she needs some enrichment here to keep her engaged in the classroom. So I can leave it as just one class, come over here, and I can just assign it to April. And so when I assign this is just her enrichment piece that's required in her gifted IEP. And she needs actually that help to get her engaged in the class material. So I can do graded or ungraded. If you do it ungraded, it will not populate to the grade book. And I can give it a due date or not give it a due date. My problem, if I don't give it a due date, they don't get that wonderful calendar and email notification. So if you want the students to be notified that they've got an assignment coming up and it's getting close, or that it's late and they haven't turned it in, you have to give it a due date. Even if you're going to expand it and let them turn it in later too, that's fine. But if you want them notified, you do have to give it a due date. The topic is where I assign it to a chapter or a 9 weeks or whatever I want to do. And then you have a couple of options. You can attach a rubric. It is a little cumbersome, but it is doable. Once you get the hang of it, it goes a little quicker, but you can create your own rubric or upload rubrics and attach them here. And then you can check for plagiarism, which I love that feature, but you can only do it 3 times a semester. So if you're going to do the plagiarism check, please make sure that you're doing it on assignments that are, a big deal and not every paragraph that you turn in. And so once you're ready to assign, you've got all these settings set up. You have some options here too. Google's all about options. So we can automatically assign it and students instantly have access. They'll instantly get notified and it'll instantly appear on that feed, that first page, that stream. You can schedule it. So if I wanted to schedule this, I'm planning ahead for my 9 weeks. I can give it a date and a time. A lot of times when I do quizzes and I use that Google form quiz, I give it a date and a time for each class period so that they don't have access to the quiz to look up questions and answers before we get into class. So then I can schedule it and hit schedule. It'll show up on my feed, but it will be grayed until the date and time that I told it to appear. And then when the date and time I tell it to appear, it'll upload on mine as posted and turn black, and then the students will have access to it as well. Or the wonderful draft. So say I'm not done yet, but I don't have time to finish it. I can click draft. It'll stay grayed out. I'll see it, but my students won't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and click assign, and it automatically populates to the students. It takes it a second because I have a couple of documents that are attaching. But now if I go to chapter 5, I can see my assignment. I can click it open. I can see I just assigned it to April. She hasn't had a chance to look at it yet, but when she does, it'll show me, and I can see when she turns it in. And if she wants to see instructions, she can see those as well. And then April and I can comment back and forth. So maybe she got it started, but she had some questions. She wasn't sure what to do. She can post a comment in here. It'll come to me as the teacher. I can post a comment back, and we can go back and forth as much as needed. So that's an individual touch that you have there. Okay. That's pretty much my overview. So do we have any questions, or do we want to try playing with some of the other stuff?
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
So when you comment back and forth like this, how are you alerted that there's a question, or does it
Email.
come email?
It'll come to your email.
Okay. Okay.
So every time there's, and you actually can turn that off, but I've never turned it off because I want to get the email.
Right.
And then
So
you can
can-
actually, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can he choose which email it goes to? So say he's at it's
It
at a
will go
Gmail.
to the email that is set up with this Google Classroom.
Okay, just a question.
So no, he can't change that. So whatever email this Google Classroom was set up under, that's the email that it's going to go to. And same with the students. Whatever email they joined from, that's the email that it's going to go to for them as well.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? No. Okay. I'm trying to
So,
think.
Suzanne, I just want to check back in with you. You said it worked and we're good,
It worked for the formatting, but
but it's still not right.
it's still not right. Like they're still not able to write on it.
So even in Cami, you can't utilize Cami with it. Have you tried that one?
I have Cami on mine, but the kids don't have, I guess I can't load that,
It's
or
not
they
on
can't
theirs.
open it themselves on the school's Chromebooks. And
So the
it's
schools
not,
haven't included.
and the school doesn't
Um,
use Google Classroom necessarily. I just started using it because it
April, what
was
about-
easier with all these kids going on quarantine.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What about putting it in a Jamboard?
Yeah,
haven't-
that,
I haven't
It-
tried that.
okay, we're going to do a Jamboard session probably in a couple, I think December. And I have a recorded session from last year that Amanda did that's really good. But that may be something that you can utilize with your students to help them engage and accomplish what you're needing to accomplish. The other simple thing that you can do is possibly put it in docs. And why can't we just, is it supposed to be like a fill out the form? Like fill out a form, you want them to like fill in blanks?
You know what? Let me stop sharing and let her share.
Yeah, that'd be good.
This is my favorite part of what we do, guys. So it's helping you guys figure out what you
It
need.
says it's disabled.
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. I'm a little slow. Hold on.
See, it's the end of the day.
I know. I couldn't type earlier. My sentences were not making any sense. Sad. Okay, you should be able to share now. Good job.
Okay, so
Yay.
it's this reader's theater. So I put
Okay.
it in here so they can do the reader's theater, and then but this is how it's opening. See, and I have Cami on mine, so because I was messing around with that and I was trying to show them and it won't let them.
It's because the school has to down. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of them at home have been able to do that. But this right here
Is what you need.
is what I wanted. I was hoping they could just write on it.
Okay, so there's two options. A Jamboard, you can put it into a Jam. And then you can, and I can show you that if you want me to, but you just post this. You'd have to do each page individually, which is not ideal, but to get it to them, if it's something you really want them to do, would be great. So put it in a Jamboard, and then your Jamboard automatically saves in your Google Drive.
Oh, okay.
So you would upload the Jamboard, just like I just added an assignment, and create an individual copy for each student, and then they can write on it that way.
Okay, I'll try that.
And then the
Thank
other
you.
option, if that doesn't work, is Google Slides. And you can put it into Google Slides and they can put a text box on it. So
Oh,
I've done
okay.
that before too. And
And there's a way to do it in Google Docs. You can upload this into Google Docs and then get rid of those
Like-
lines.
It's going,
It's just not, what does it look like when you do that?
actually, I didn't try this the second time after I did the formatting thing you said. So maybe it'll work.
Maybe we'll get lucky.
Nah, see, it's
Nope.
coming up like that, like goofy.
thank you, Andy. Thank you for joining us.
Andy, thank you so much.
It's kind of odd. It's
So it's-
taking the border out and putting it.
So go, I wonder if you can edit the border just really quickly. Have you tried to do that at all? Like remove, or go to remove all formatting, see what it does. Like that little T with the X on the end.
Where is it?
On the top navigation toolbar, go
On the
right,
right-hand side, right
next
under
to the little
share.
pencil, right there. Did it do anything?
No, I guess not.
But
No, it
yeah,
didn't.
that kind of is supposed to remove all the
If you delete the border, does it go normal?
Like it's working if I
Okay.
delete the border.
That's
okay.
what I would probably, that's gonna be easier. I mean,
I
if
would
you
think
want to
so.
keep the border, then you can put it in a jam, but that's
Oh,
gonna
there
be
you
a
go.
little bit of front loading.
Yay! And
Okay.
then what you want, if you want to make those lines fill in the blank, okay?
Oh, that's cool. Show her that. Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to get rid of those lines because once you start typing
just
on
gonna
those
keep
lines that you
moving?
have right now, they're gonna move and it's gonna be really annoying.
Yeah.
So get rid of that. And what you want to do is you want to go up to insert, go up to table or drop down to table, and then just do 1, 2, 3, however many lines you want, just straight down. But I would only do one line because because it's just going to be like a block, right? Okay. Now highlight that again. And now go to your borders and do the bottom line. So go to your 3 dots, I think. Where's her borders? I can't find it, Amanda.
What are you looking for?
I can't
I'm
either.
looking for, you know how you shade. So we can have an underline. Border
Right.
dash. Okay, yeah, just do that. Yeah, border width, pick your dash, pick your color. But there's a way to like just make it look like not a box if you want to make it look like lines. Oh, click on the little drop down carrot that's right on the blue. I bet that's where it is. That's where it is. Highlight again. Highlight the whole thing again. Yeah. There, you got it. And then, oh, wait, no. So I was just thinking, okay, highlight again, and then pick the one with the one underlined line, which is the second box. Yeah, far. There you go.
Thank you, Judy.
Anyways, that's to give you an idea. So you would do this with each section, make your
Okay. And then
lines.
I can just type inside and not have to have the
Right.
lines move. Okay, thank you.
And not have all those words. So that's the trick to that. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. But,
No, it's cool. Thank you.
and you
And I
know how to force make a copy, right? We already talked about that. So, okay.
Well, in Google Classroom, you don't have to do that. That's only when you're adding it to like a website. So, because
Right.
Google Classroom does it for you. So,
Ah,
All right, that's a big help. Thank you.
you're so
last is
welcome.
to use Canvas. That's awesome.
Is there anything else that we can help anybody with?
No, that
don't know.
fixed my day. Thanks.
Yay, I'm glad to be helpful. That makes me feel good. We did our job.
Do you want me to stop
Okay.
recording?
Sounds great. I don't have anything else. So
Okay.
Okay.